Riding the roads of Missouri is like the weather. If you don't like it, wait 1 mile. Hello and welcome to Best Motorcycle Roads. I'm Tom.
And I'm Todd. We have over 65 years of combined motorcycling experience and 30 years of planning and riding motorcycle trips. We're here to share with you everything we've learned over those years.
Our goal at Best Motorcycle Roads is simple. Make your next motorcycle trip the best it can be. We'll dive into technology, planning, packing, the routes, other tips, and everything in between.
From essential prep to unforgettable routes, we've got you covered.
Before we kickstart today's journey, we ask you to sign up for our BMR Rider Alerts. It's our way of keeping you in the loop with the latest rides, tips, and stories. We promise no spam, only the essentials to enhance your motorcycle adventures. Join the BMR crew today. We'll put a link in the show notes. This segment about motorcycle gear reviews and tips we call the Toolkit. Today we'll talk about a couple things. Motorcycle gloves, we've talked about those before. They kind of come in two varieties, really leather or mesh. And then within that there's a bunch. And a lot of mesh is summer riding, more kind of, a lot of more airflow. But you can also have a leather mesh. So like, you know, it's super confusing. But it's kind of whatever you get used to or what you like. Leather to me after a while gets really, it kind of takes the shape of your hand.
It does, yeah.
And they're of course more expensive, and the mesh ones are a little more easier. They don't really break in, they're broke in and they kind of stay that way. So but then of course there's all different kinds. There's just your standard wrist glove, you know, you've got gauntlet gloves, and then you like even like a fingerless glove sometimes.
I use a leather fingerless glove. The one thing I've found with my leather gloves, I don't know if this is all, but when they get wet a bunch of times, there's some of the dye that actually kind of leaks out of them. You know, like I see my hands turning black. But I like the fingerless because I can touch my phone. My GPS, it doesn't matter. I can use fingered gloves, but my phone, of course, I can't.
And I think what I've found is with many things is the longer, you know, the kind of more nicer gloves you get, the more I like them. Like, I think my mesh leather gloves I've had them probably for 5 or 6 years. And I kind of feel like sometimes I should buy another pair because I feel like if these do rip or go bad, then it's going to take me too long to get them broke in or something. So I feel like at some point I should probably just buy some other gloves. But yeah, take a look at those. I think we've talked a lot too is having a couple pair with you minimum. You know, if you get caught in rain, wet gloves, especially if it's a little cooler, is not fun. The second one that we haven't talked about too much is just underclothing gear. There's a really great company called bonarmor.com. And what I've noticed about those, and this is kind of my new thing that I'd like to get to, is kind of they have like under armor that goes under your clothing a little bit. So think of it, I mean, it's not Lycra, but it's flexible stuff. So you'd almost put it on like as underwear. It has a little bit of, it has shock absorbent built in, flexibility built in, and then you can get it in either like cool summer wear or winter wear. But then it also has the armor, which is all removable. So like with the pants, there's like 9 points that it's protecting, you know, above the knees, below the knees, hips. And then with the shirt, they call it a shirt, or it's kind of like a coat, but it's like an under shirt, I would call it, and it has armor in it as well. Again, though, depending on which one you go with, they're made of very flexible, easy to kind of move around, but then you just put regular pants right over the top of them.
So when you're talking about shirts, undershirt, is it a long sleeve?
It's like a zip, long sleeve.
So you get an elbow protection in it too. Oh, okay.
And then you could slip another coat or something over it if you wanted to, or like a long sleeve t-shirt.
Oh, wow.
So it's really good, back protection. So what I kind of like about this is you buy this, you wear it, and then if you just want to wear a flannel, wear a flannel. If you want to wear a long sleeve t-shirt, wear a long sleeve t-shirt. There's not, you know, you kind of cover all this up and it's underneath, but it's also kind of designed for this use. So therefore, like what I feel like sometimes, like what I don't like is when we're riding in the rain sometimes, like I need to take off my coat and put my raincoat on. Well, my raincoat doesn't have any armor in it. And I don't have any armor when I'm riding in the rain. And hell, the most important time to be riding in the rain maybe to have the armor on. So I'm kind of looking at this as another option. So check out the website. It's really cool. Men's and women's. They have different colors. They have some shells that you can change the fabrics on as well a little bit. But and then some of it's high vis as well.
Yeah.
So you're getting some of that high vis on the shirts and stuff. So yeah, check it out. It's good stuff. High quality, not cheap, but I think it's worth the investment.
Bon Armor. Bon
spelled B-O-H-N Armor.
Okay.
Yeah, A-R-M-O-R. Yep, that's the toolkit.
I like it. RideWise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips. RideWise is the section we focus on planning and safety tips. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about motorcycle safety courses. There's several different types. There's a beginner riding course. Then there's the returning rider beginning rider course. So this is someone, you've had a bike in the past, you've done some riding, and then maybe you've gone 2, 3, 4 years, 5 years, you haven't ridden a bike. This is kind of a refresher.
Yeah.
And then there's a beginner riding course 2. And then there's a 3-wheel beginner riding course. Yeah, that's, of course, they've had to adapt that, just in the last 10 years, I suppose.
Well, it's really weird because you get a motorcycle license to ride the 3-wheeler.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it seems like it should be a car license, but, and then there's the advanced riding course. And you and I both went through that together.
I think we actually went through the return rider, beginner rider course. I don't know that it was advanced, but maybe it was. I don't remember.
I thought it was called advanced.
Well, I thought it was too, but then later on there was another one that we could have went to. So anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, that's all right. So in the beginner riding courses, this would be for someone who's a pretty new rider, but they really cover a lot. It's like mental preparedness, perception development, situational awareness, risk evaluation, evasive strategies, riding in a straight line, turning, shifting, stopping, slow riding. It's really great.
Yeah. I took the beginner class before I started riding, how many years ago now. I loved it. The first night was bookwork. And then in Iowa, the second day was all riding. And they took different things, like they had a 2x4 out there and they kind of taught you to accelerate with your front wheel, brake when you get over it to kind of like, keep the lightness of the bike just quick, you said switch situational awareness, this, that, curve turning. What I thought it was amazing was, I guess what I was trying to say was in Iowa, they actually allow you to use that as opposed to going then down and riding at the DMV.
Oh, right. Yes.
Which is kind of nice too. So,
yeah.
They're kind of hard to find in Iowa. But that's one of the things that the Harley dealerships have really embraced as well, is they have some of those classes, which that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, some of the community colleges, offer the beginning riding course anyway.
Right.
It's hard to find. It's sometimes hard to find the number 2 class or the advanced rider class, but the beginner riding classes, you can seem to find those. Yeah.
Yeah. I know that one that we took, the advanced riding one, that was amazing. And there was probably 7 or 8, 10 people in that thing, maybe.
There was, yeah.
It was shocking to me how many people could not turn around in a small box.
Yeah.
And then you watch these videos of these people that just manhandle motorcycles. It's completely impressive, way beyond my means. But I was just surprised at just a small, 2 parking space box, people could not turn that motorcycle around in.
Yeah. And I know when I started, I couldn't do it at first. It took a lot of practice, and you have to learn from somebody the skills of how to do it, where to put your eyes,
the details,
where to put your head, where the balance point should be, how to feather the clutch and just handle that, your throttle. But I was going to say, in the advanced course, we did a lot of things like crash avoidance. That was.
I was surprised. We also got the thing up to speed. Really, we got moving. I was like,
Yeah. There was that was great. I was glad we took that. At first, I was kind of like, I don't know. I've been riding for 20 years. Do I really need to? Or 25 years? And
it was scary. How bad. It was like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, I think about this stuff a lot when we're riding.
And at that point, I was riding my Goldwing.
Right.
So turning the Goldwing in that small box and doing the figure eights.
And I think you do the mental that, this is a Goldwing. I'm not going to be able to turn around this box. And this guy pulls up. One of the instructors I remember had one of those big Victory cruisers.
Yeah, the long one.
He was turning that thing on a dime. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
So when he did that, I was like, all right, I'm going to have to do this.
It's possible.
I did it.
Yeah.
So anyway, That's what I would say. If you haven't ridden in a while, go back to the the refresher course. If you're a new rider, take the beginner course, the three-wheel course. I don't know anything about it, but totally makes sense. I mean,
just a quick note. The beginner course usually provides motorcycles. Usually it's people without bikes. Correct. And then the advanced class, you bring your bike.
Bring your bike.
Yeah, I guess we didn't mention that.
Yep.
So the next segment is what we call the mile marker. It's our story segment. This is a story segment we call mile marker. So today we're going to talk, Todd, about a planning trip that we're planning on at some point, kind of put in the files. Again, we're in Iowa, so Missouri is a nice ride. Missouri has some great riding roads. And this is kind of I guess you might call it a battlefield tour. Found a couple places in Missouri that some of the Civil War battles happened on, and I thought, wow, that's a good combination of stuff that we've never stopped to see before. So this would be leaving from Solon, Iowa, and then we'd head to the Wilsons Creek National Battlefield, Missouri, which that is quite an interesting little history on that. It's near Republic, Missouri. But I guess the Battle of Wilson's Creek was fought in 1861 in August. So that's kind of a really interesting thing. It sounds like they have a visitor center and a tour and some of those things. So I don't know. That was quite the. I guess I didn't realize so much that there was that much history right below us here. Yeah. So yeah, there's some good rides to ride along. We've taken a few of these roads before in Iowa, down to 34, 63 and 54, and then 13 in Missouri are all great roads that we've rode before as well. Just never really gotten to this tour. So after that, then it takes you down to another place in Hermann, Missouri, which I think you'd said you've heard of before.
Been there, yeah.
And maybe partial of the reasons why is because one of our favorite Missouri roads, Missouri 19, is how you get there as well. But some of this would be cutting through some of the Lake of the Ozarks, which is great riding. And then Hermann, Missouri would be a potential stay for the second night. And it's kind of a German heritage place, which could be kind of cool. And then from Hermann, Missouri, it's more kind of Jefferson City, Arrow Rock. So some of the roads that you might encounter there is Missouri 94W. We've been in that area before, if you remember maybe you didn't ride into the Ozarks with us that time. Don't remember? Backwater Jacks.
No, I don't remember that.
Famous for their fried potato salad.
No, I know I wasn't there.
I just remember it was 105 that day, and then we were parking on asphalt. It was
man.
Woo!
Yeah.
But interesting, in that area of Arrow Rock, actually, there's a penitentiary tour, which we've seen, you guys have taken when I was not on the trip where you took the tour. But they have a guided tour of a prison that was in operation from 1836 to 2004. So that's kind of cool. I mean, and I think what we've found over the times, and we've talked about this before, is it's really nice to plan these stops and breaks so you can kind of just get off the motorcycle for a little while, walk around, and then kind of do something that's fun and maybe not so, you don't want to get off the bike and then go on a nature hike. You're already kind of hot, sweaty. It's kind of nice to kind of have an alternative.
Yeah. A penitentiary that started in 1836 and lasted to 2004.
Right.
I can't imagine what that might look like. I mean,
stony.
Stony, right? I mean, did they upgrade it? Did they make it look modern?
We should find out.
Let's go there. Yeah.
We don't do a lot of motorcycle camping, but there is a great place to camp in Arrow Rock State Historical Site. It's an area, but we're not into that. But some people really do.
Yeah.
And then kind of on the way back, there's one more battle site. It's called the Boonville Site. June 17th, 1861 was kind of one of the early battles in that area. But I don't think there's tours in this area. This is more of you'd roll through some historical markers, and things like that. And I don't know if you've seen these before, and I didn't check on this particular one. Have you seen these new kind of tours where people are recording almost like a podcast, and then you listen to it while you're riding through a certain area? Have you heard about these?
I have not.
Oh my gosh, it's quite interesting. The technology hasn't got there. There's some sites that are trying to sell it, and then there's some people that just do them. the technology isn't quite there. You almost need a specific player that's based on GPS so you can start to trigger things. Boy, it's interesting though. You can kind of learn some things at the same time.
I'll bet.
But yeah, also there in Lexington, Missouri was the Battle of the Lexington State Historical Site. So again, Battle of Hemp Bales, and that was in September of 1861. So there is a visitor center there, and I think there's some battlefields and houses that you might be able to get to. So it's kind of interesting. This would be about a 1,100-mile trip, I guess I would say. And, you know, outside of staying off the 4 lanes, we've never really encountered anything in Missouri that wasn't a great motorcycle ride.
That's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 4 days.
Yeah, that's
thinking,
that would be what this would be. I think it could be. I think you could probably find a 5th day in there if you really wanted to. You know, the things where we've been planning lately, it seems like people are 5 days is almost a little too much. So we're trying to kind of crank in these 4 days.
Yeah.
And then some of this area we've been to before. And so, you know, we could probably skip some of those parts. But yeah, that's been fun. We've been using a lot of ChatGPT to kind of build out some of these maps. And it's really interesting, sometimes frustrating, sometimes interesting. But what I've noticed is it's really helpful, especially if you have an area where you want to go, to finding like some of these sites, like without too much work. And I know we've talked about in the past to kind of dig in. Oh, yeah, and I'll start doing Chamber of Commerce, you know, state websites. This seems to be really helpful when you say, here's my circle. Like, what do you got? You know?
Yeah.
And then it kind of came up, it ended up with a theme, which I think would be all right.
I really like that idea. And, you know, we brought it up, I don't know if it was last podcast or a couple ago, but you can upload a map.
Right,
an
like a
image of
picture.
map,
Yeah.
into GPT.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah, thank you. But that's not the only AI engine you can use.
Well, actually, I was using Gemini a little bit, and that's the Google's version. What was really cool about that, I'm like, oh, well, can you make a map for this? And it could. Now, ChatGPT doesn't play nicely with the Google Maps.
Of course, yeah.
But Gemini, Google's product, does, and it kicked out some maps. So if you walk through this, you know, it shows you it takes you on some roads. I asked it to avoid the bigger roads, and it did. So when we were going from Solon down to Mount Pleasant to Ottumwa, Kirksville, it was really trying hard to skip the bigger roads, you know, and it laid out some really, really nice roads. And actually some of these that we found when we went down to the Eclipse ride, you know, these are some similar roads or, you know, better. And then this at least gives you a place to start, and you can start to tweak a little. A couple of these, like one of the days, they only had 125 miles. We'd probably want to push that a little bit harder. But we'd want to base on some of the stops that we had planned as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's kind of fun to play with these in this way. So it'll be interesting. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how these rides ride out as we kind of was this good or bad? But yeah. So
I really like it for finding some things that we wouldn't have caught.
Agreed.
Yeah.
The podcast can be found on bestmotorcycleroads.com/podcast. All the information you need will be there. But you can subscribe on Spotify, Amazon Music, Apple, Pocket Casts, and YouTube.
This is the interactive segment. We will be looking for input from you. We want you to send us your questions and suggestions for roads, topics, and anything else you have on your mind. Today's Roadside Q&A comes from Jim, and Jim was asking, how do you stay comfortable and avoid fatigue on long stretches of riding, especially in a group where you're having to maintain a pace? Yeah, that's a good one. And for those who haven't ridden in a group before and you're about to do a group ride, I've talked about this before, that can be a little stressful. It can build some anxiety because, yes, you're trying to stay in that group and not slow things down and feel like you have to maintain a pace, but, you know, hydrate. The night before, get a good night's sleep. Make sure you start drinking water the day before, unless you're old and you'll have to stop all the time to go to the bathroom.
There's diapers for that.
But do get hydrated the day before and then while you're riding. The other thing I would say is snack along the way. Fill your pockets with something that you can snack on. as you go, so you don't have to eat a huge meal that'll make you tired usually, after you eat something big. So, maybe small snacks as you go. Change positions, stretch out your legs, stretch out your knees, stand up on your pegs a little bit. Scoot back in your skeet.
Don't be afraid to say, hey, I need a little break.
Or just ask for a break. Communicate with the group. That's a big one. But, really just don't push yourself into being fatigued. And don't push yourself. If the group is going too fast and you don't feel comfortable, say something.
Absolutely.
I'm sure they're fine with it. They'll slow down for you. But just say, hey, we're going at a speed that I don't usually ride. This doesn't feel good to me. We're making a lot of corners. And mind if we bring it back a little bit? And they'll do that.
Yeah, and some of this Bond wear that we're talking about, it has some, it's made for motorcycle riding, right? So I think sometimes people don't want to spend a little bit of extra money on that. And I saw it the other day with highway pegs. Some guy was talking about putting $80 highway pegs on his new Goldwing, and it's like, you just spent 20 grand or 15 grand for a motorcycle, and now you want to save $150 so you can clamp some goofy highway pegs on it. And it's like, just buy some nice highway pegs that go with the bike.
Yeah.
You're going to ride it a lot, and you want them to be as comfortable as possible.
That's a great
point. And the same thing with the gear. This stuff helps you feel better, So, I mean,
that's a great
If you need to buy a cheaper bike to get better gear, I think you'd be better off to buy, any O2 gold, we just know Goldwings because we ride them so much, but those are still great bikes.
Yeah.
Buy a cheaper bike and have some better gear, or better seat or a better, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. That's a great tip. I totally agree with you.
Now it's time for the last mile, our way to kind of close the episode with our reflections from today. So what are you thinking, Todd?
Well, I like this idea of using Gemini to create some maps for us. This sounds like a lot easier.
Maybe.
And I think we're actually going to find more. This AI technology is fantastic, and now that it's Gemini is Google, so it integrates with maps.
Yeah.
Wow, game changer, I think.
Yeah, I would also say I'm kind of excited when we came up with a theme that includes some of these Civil War sites. That's not something I've ever been to, so that's kind of exciting.
Yeah,
that would be a really fun ride for me, I think so. If this episode revved up your day, don't keep it to yourself. Like, subscribe, and share it with your crew. We're all about the thrill of the ride and the bond it creates.
Keep the spirit of adventure alive, and remember, bikes, friends, and endless roads. The stories ride forever. Take care.